partly looking into trying to get this little collection back in favour of Seamus Heaney. So I'm going to start with reading one poem by Seamus from this book. And it's interesting, it's one of the few books I can actually tell you the day I bought it. The date is Thursday, the 5th of October, 1995. And I sort of went into a bookshop buying it. I've heard good reviews about it, so I'll buy it at last. I bought it, and on the train home, commuting from London, I read that Seamus had won the Nobel Prize. And strangely enough, one of the first poems in the book is strangely appropriate for that situation. It has an allusion to Larkin, which I don't know, I haven't looked up. Anyway, it's called The Journey Back. Larkin's shade surprised me. He quoted Dante. Daylight was going, and in the umber air, soothing every creature on the earth, freeing them from their labours everywhere. I alone was girding myself to face the ordeal of my journey and my duty. And not a thing had changed as rush hour buses bore the drained and laden through the city. I might have been a wise king setting out under the Christmas lights, except that it felt more like a forlorn journey back into the heartland of the ordinary, still my old self, ready to knock one back, a 9-to-5 man who had seen poetry. And this meeting has also sort of come around partly because of Facebook. I mean, some friends like Helen I've known before Facebook, and Beth and Grant and others I've come to know through Facebook. And I'm training as a psychotherapist at the moment. So David, if you want to understand the ants thing, I'll give you my card. But one of the things happens is in the psychotherapy field, there's particularly amongst the older ones, there's suspicion about things like Facebook, and do they stop people getting into proper relationships? Well, I have to say, I found the opposite, and I've had a strange sort of relationship with a woman in America who's become sort of like a muse to me, and this actually is it's actually a love poem to her as well. To a Facebook friend, the other side of the world, in a different time zone. It's also my most recent poem, actually. Sometimes, while awake, I watch my screen, knowing you are asleep. I read your words, no later that you will tell me you were there for me, as I am here for you, watching, waiting, witnessing, as you are here for me, when I take my sleep, to enter the caves of my own dreaming, from which, when morning comes, we will converse again, remind each other how we awaken and dream together. Next one sort of goes back to times when I was working in this city, though I think it's about my life as much as anything else. There's a kind of pun in here in the title, which is career, and it's also about careering around as well. And so here it is, career. I leapt into misty ravines, landed on a soapy ledge, slipped down, stopped, held by nylon ropes that I couldn't untie. Above me, footsteps came and went, echoes. Nietzsche, Jung, Plato, Louise Brooks, Doctor Who taught me undoing. What happened next? I let go, slid into banking, wrote poems on vouchers. Their findings appeared on screens and ledgers. And it paid the bills. You've had a career. You don't know my career. Failed affairs, schemes, utopias. My failures work better now. I'm not the one I thought I was. The next one is quite dense, I suppose, in some of its references. It actually is a sort of tribute to Ian Fleming, the creator of James Bond, whose centenary was a few years ago. It was the year it was actually written. And Fleming's, I love the Bond books, some of the films, particularly the books, and Fleming's enigmatic character as well. he was interested in all sorts of things like the occult and set up with using codes and things. And he actually, I mean, there's a reference to James Kirkup, the poet, mentioned meeting Fleming in an air raid shelter, and they talked together. And Kirkup, Fleming said, "Oh, that would be like use that. We do that for a code." Anyway, there's all sorts of other wonderful things in Fleming's scripture reader. And I picked up a sort of Bond-like title, which certainly fits the book, so Scrambled Eggs, Scorpions, and a Walter PPK. You stirred martinis, scrambled eggs, made cold love to your women, mixing on your golden typewriter, scorpions, snakes, dragons, with Walther pistols, Bentleys and golf clubs. Unusual primateria for an alchemist. Yet you knew their secret world, of Paracelsus, who some say was murdered by rivals, of Dee, who also spied for his queen, signing memos 007. They would even enjoy your plots, astrology to trap a Nazi, Lucky Luciano to steal a submarine. You read their coded texts, where Venus, Jupiter, Saturn stand for kidney, liver, spleen. Thus in an air raid shelter, waiting for the all clear, you could devise hermetic poems to fox enemy counter spies. I watch you on footage, pick up the diver's mask from your desk, take it to a shelf. Colour cuts in, a goddess rises from the foam, Bond crosses the beach, survives the torture, cigarettes and ennui. The next one is a homage. I'm a great fan of some of the great Eastern European poets, like, speaking of Herbert, Miroslav Holub and Manos Sorescu. I know Helen is a great fan of some of those as well. And this one particularly comes from Herbert. It's the first line of one of his poems, which is, I would like to describe, which is also the title. Poem from a title of New Herbert. I would like to describe the centre of myself. I would like to describe the navel, the omphalos, set where two eagles cross, set in different directions by a god seeking the centre of his world. I would like to describe a place from which sacred springs start a river into a gulf where tankers pass. To put it another way, these are my veins and arteries that feeds islets of Langerhans, the aorta, the corpus callosum. I would like to describe whatever else feeds thoughts or feelings as they bathe in sound, light, scent on a shore where the human body floats while hands cup purple pebbles. From there I would send out my own eagles. Just two more poems, both in a slightly surreal vein, but who cares? First one is what it was like commuting a little bit, actually, as well. I mean, I'm no longer commuting, got out of the city, escaped there. The title is Sunflower Seeds. Overnight a sunflower grew, stood 6 feet tall, leaning against my open window, yellow eye blinking as it took in the haze. See, it sang, how the grasses, the roses, the chrysanthemums are fresher, brighter for their dreams. Well, as you can imagine, I made a swift exit, but I'm sure I saw it stalking me behind a hedge on the way to the station. As my train crossed the Kentish fields, there it was again. See, it sang, from a seat behind, where seeds grow out to make ripening corn, apples in the trees. I buried myself in a book, looking up only to catch what other passengers were making of this. The yellow sunflower being back at me, between two dark suits whose faces were drowning in their papers. At the office, I bought a coffee, signed on the PC, thinking I was safe, just before a golden shadow spread over my desk, a yellow eye reflecting in the screen. It peered over the filing cabinets. See, it began. At this point I gave in. I went to the canal to watch a nest of swans. Well, you want to try arguing with a sunflower. And the final one actually comes out the first time I met Helen. She was reading with George Surtees, and I read an early version of this, which is partly based on, I don't know if you know Galway Kinnell's poem, Oatmeal, where he has this sort of conversation with an imaginary friend who happens to be John Keats, you know, as you do. This is a slightly different one of those sort of imaginary friends. Actually, it came up when I went away with some friends on a sort of writing retreat holiday, and we just 4 words, and this sort of, I forget, one of them was pylon, like an electricity pylon, and another one was, I think, goats or something like that as well. Anyway, here we start. Conversation under a pylon. I'm sitting under a pylon. I am tracing the wires across fields. It may be dangerous to sit under pylons because of the current. To take my mind off the danger, I have therefore started a conversation with a stag that wandered over from a nearby forest. It may also be dangerous to be seen talking to stags, particularly if the psychiatrist is watching. Nevertheless, this stag assures me that he's had many conversations with humans, and they all voice similar reservations to mine. To show his good intentions, he tells me that he's positioned his antlers so as to protect my head from the wires, their height being such that they will stop cables from falling onto my head. He shrugs off the danger of electrocution, stating nonchalantly that antlers are excellent insulators. After this, the conversation moves to stock prices. He's aware of markets and has some interesting tips. I'm not sure I will take them up. I do not any asked if I know classical Greek. He tells me classical Greek is the traditional language of stags. He also tells me the stags were the original satires, though goats fiercely dispute this claim. Then he asks if I think Homer was really blind and if Plato was serious about banning poetry readings. I don't know which surprises me more, his speaking Greek or his knowledge of shares. I don't ask if he knows Latin. The conversation continues a few more minutes before we depart for social commitments. I don't know if we'll meet again. As I leave the field, coming over the gate, I meet a goat coming the other way. It may also be dangerous to be seen talking to goats, particularly if the same psychiatrist is still watching. But I want to know its view on the satire question.